And welcome, everyone. Oh my, I'm Temple Hayes, and welcome the one and only incomparable TJ Woodward. I'm so glad to see you. I always look forward to our sacred time, just questioning, thinking. What is it they say? Be aware when a thinker has been unleashed. This is our time that we get together and we just no holds barred, right?
I love it. Unleashed. When I think of the two of us, Temple, and all the years we've been doing this, that is a very, very good description. Thinking, feeling, experiencing, diving deep into the mystery, unleashed.
Absolutely. Well, I've been reading on your comments, some of your Facebook and some of mine, and I know that people go through times that they're just getting very weary. Um, and I think it's important that we do our best. I can only say what I tell myself. I'm not one of these that I tell people how to do or here's the way you can do it. I like to practice and talk about the tools that I'm using. Um, so you want to start with you and share some things that you do?
Sure, Temple. I know our topic today is choosing love in a
Yep.
complex world. And we came to that because, of course, it's Valentine's Day and there's a big focus on love. And also, there's a lot happening in the world. And one of
Hmm.
the things I love most about you and where we have a lot of synchronicity is we're not those spiritual teachers that like to sit on a mountaintop. We're like, how does this actually make a difference in our lives first and then in the people we work with, right? Because, like you said, we're not here to teach. I'll put it in the eye. I'm not here to teach, but I am here to share my experience on tools and tips and things that have really helped me live a more dynamic and connected life. And, for so many years, Temple, I thought the world was happening to me. I was trying to change the world.
Hmm.
It became very difficult. And there was this moment of surrender where I realized that it's really about practicing something really different. And that is, how can I be of service in the world? And really being in the question, is it possible to choose love no matter what?
Right. Yeah. Well, you're spot on, I think, and that's it. I mean, ultimately, we want love. I was telling you before we started to record that I am a virgin Mardi Gras goer. I haven't been able to use that word in a long time. So anyway, it's so exciting because I had no idea what to expect. And here you are with just tens of thousands of people
Yeah.
from all over, all walks of life. No one's interested in your religion, or if you have one, no one's interested in your sexual preferences, the color of your skin, none of that. They are just celebrating. And
Mm.
it is like, let's go to church. I mean, I just got so excited because it's like, you know how you can be at certain things and people walk in front of you or in an automobile and people pull in front of you or whatever and it's easy to get a little irritated. Not in this. People can walk in front of you, they can step on your toe. You're like, how you doing? I mean, it's just the ability to lighten up and really celebrate with grace and ease. And so when we look at the tools that we use, I mean, first of all, I think it's important that we have compassion for
Mm.
ourselves right now. And I think it's important to call that into all of you that are listening. Have compassion for yourself. You're using muscles you've never used before. We are using muscles we have never used before. And it's a stretch mark. It truly is. The good news is we will adjust to it. The irony right now is that you have so much coming at you at any given moment in the day, right? And so, what do you pick and choose where the focus is going to be? And this isn't new stuff. We've taught it in meditation. We've had many leaders and teachers talk about, being present, being in the now, being deeper than the now, and all of that. But yet, at the end of the day, we're using new muscles because we have news coming in, we have this coming in, we have little click videos coming in, and you're just going like this, like, whoa, what do I want to focus on? And so it seems to me I'm required to be more grounded than ever, to have more moments in the day that I'm silent, which is a tool, and to not feed things that I don't want in my energy field.
Well, and I love what you're saying because I'm thinking about you being in New Orleans for the first time at Mardi Gras. I've never been there, so I can only imagine. I mean, I've been to New Orleans. I was visiting you recently, but never during
Yes,
Mardi Gras. And,
right.
life is a celebration. And, it's kind of like if you think about can we act the way we do around the holidays all year long, where we have more compassion, where we have more curiosity, where we have more love for our fellow people. So that's one question. How do we do that, right? And I think it's important to start with, I love everything that you said, and to recognize, and you and I both know this very well, that consciousness creates reality. Well, what does
Right.
that actually mean? That means exactly what you just said. Like, I'm scrolling on my phone. We have these mega computers in our hands now, and
Yeah.
we just don't know what we're going to land on, right? I did a whole talk on how to change your algorithm called Consciousness is an Algorithm. We can bookmark that for a
Oh, I
moment.
love that. I
Yeah,
love
because
that.
because an algorithm, I guess we'll just go there, right?
Go there.
An algorithm in the tech world is whatever we click on, we get more of. Whatever we pause on, we get more of. So if I'm scrolling, and I mean TikTok's the most assertive one. I was going to call it aggressive, but it's the most assertive algorithm. If I stop on a puppy for 3 seconds, more puppies, more puppies. If
Yeah,
I stop on political discord, more political discord, right? And we're in an era where we don't even know if what we're reading is true. So,
that's right.
we can say, let's fact check it, but we're talking about something much deeper, and that is where am I putting my energy? What am I clicking on? So, if I love something or I quote unquote hate something, if I give it energy in either direction, life gives me more of that. That's why say consciousness is an algorithm. I had some people push back on me on social media about that when I posted that. So I want to be clear what I'm talking about. I'm talking about collective consciousness, the human consciousness, my ability to
Mhm.
perceive. In other words, what I focus on, I get more of or I see more of. Sometimes people will say, are you burying your head in the sand? And I like to be provocative, so I'll say, yeah, it's actually much more pleasant in the sand than it is watching what we call the news now. So
Right.
even to say yes, but no, not really. I'm not pretending like something's not happening in the world, but I'm giving myself a little bit of space and I'm asking myself the question, what gets created when I focus on this? What gets created when I'm against this? When I'm against something, life seems to give me more of it.
Well, it reminds me of a story, and I was thinking about us talking today, and I was thinking about this cute little story, and I was like, I hope it flows that I talk about it. And so when I would walk my dogs, and we're just out there and enjoying nature and just marching along, and all of a sudden, a big dog obstacle comes on the path. And my little dogs, they're not big.
Right.
And rather than, hey, here it comes, let's go, let's get him, or whatever, let's bark loud, or together we can bark louder. None of that. Guess what they do? They turn on each other.
Oh, wow. Oh, interesting.
And so, at times I see this going on Facebook and with leaders and global spiritual leaders. They're they're angry. They're saying they are. I'm not just perceiving they are because they are assuming that the rest of us aren't doing anything. Just because we're not on doing politics. Here's the news for anyone that cares. I am not going to do politics. Why? Because I only talk about things that either I've tested, I've lived through, I've survived, I'm highly educated about. I don't talk about things that is ran by commercialization of news media and advertisers because I don't know what's true and what's not. And I don't want to mislead anyone. Talk about tools, talk about balance, talk about sobriety, talk about being gay in a world that, where can you put that flag now? Now we can talk about that. But I'm not doing politics. And I love my colleagues and honor them that know a lot about it and talk about it. And they give us interpretations, and I follow them. But I will not ask you to follow me when it comes to politics because I'm simply I'm interested in my world, how it's impacted and affected, and that's what I'm going to address. And I think you're on the same page with that.
Well, absolutely. And the
Hmm.
question is, what would love do here, and how can I
Yeah,
be more loving in the world? I had the honor of speaking at Agape Bay Area, which was the community I founded many
I
years ago
know.
in
Yeah.
Oakland on Sunday, and I found myself repeating something that I had done in a clinical training because I dance in two worlds, right? The spiritual world and then this clinical world of behavioral health. And the truth is they're not separate, they're one, because I really am wanting to infuse more spirituality into behavioral health and more taking a look at what we address in behavioral health in some spiritual communities, right? So no longer bypassing, but doing some of the shadow
Mhm.
work, looking at the psychology of it. One of the reasons I love Michael Beckwith is he has a psychology background as well as a spiritual background, right? So the
Mhm.
blending of that. But I found myself saying in a clinical training and then at Agape Bay Area, if I'm sitting in front of someone, can I have as much love for someone wearing a rainbow flag as I do wearing a MAGA hat? And if I have a
Mhm.
response or reaction to one or the other, it's not bad or wrong, but there's something there that's blocking me from love. When we sign up to be spiritual teachers, when we sign up to be clinicians, we obviously get to choose who we cater to. We can build a spiritual community for LGBTQ folks if we want. We can, build a community only for certain types of Christians. We can do that. As a therapist, I can have a specialty in my private practice.
Right.
What I'm speaking to is when I'm sitting in front of someone and I've taken an oath of being a spiritual teacher and I've taken an oath as a clinician, my intention is to see if I can be as loving, present, and open for both of those two people. And if I'm not, I have a little bit of more work to do. And that work is
Mhm.
an interesting word, just more evolution, more
Yeah.
clarity, more. Now, I can guarantee you, Temple, that someone watching is probably having a yeah, but moment. Yeah, but wait a minute. Are
Mhm.
you saying it's okay for this person? So, like, I have friends who say the other side is evil. I've heard them say those words, and I'm like, isn't it interesting? Because that's kind of what the quote unquote other side is saying about us. So as soon as I'm
Right.
in the conversation of sides, I've missed the point.
That's my two dogs.
Yes.
Well, let's just really make it work by not working and turn on each other, and so it diffuses energy. I mean, like somebody saying TJ is just too happy. I mean, how
They
can
have
you be
said that.
happy right now with everything going on in the world? Or how can you feel this way with everything going on in the world? Well, I don't want anybody to be disappointed, but we never see the whole world. Uh,
Yes.
we have, we do not have the ability to see the whole world. The only world we ever see is through conditional lenses of somebody else. And usually it's money driven or some other reason, but it's not a true outpicturing of our world. I got to see our world at Mardi Gras, which is still going on. And I got to see people from everywhere, all sizes, all shapes, all agendas. and just coexisting. And to me, I was thinking, wow, this is really what we're aiming towards.
That's
And
right.
if we did not have all of the things that we have now, wanting to influence us into total negative hatred, division thinking, we probably have a lot more of that than you realize.
That's right. I was thinking, as you were telling the story of Mardi Gras, I was thinking about going on a cruise with my family recently. That's when I saw you because we
Hmm.
left out of Nolans,
Nolans.
back and forth to the Caribbean.
Mhm.
And I was sitting with my dad and my stepmother, and we come from very different places in the world. I like to say I'm from LA, which I am, and they like to say they're from LA, Lower Alabama, right? So we have these two different, sort of worldviews, and we're swimming in a different consciousness. And I was on this cruise sitting with them, and I was looking around, and all these people from all different walks of life, and people getting along, and having a drink with one another or sharing a meal. And I am thinking they're not asking who they voted for before they say hello, right? They're not, and
Right.
it's just interesting to see. And I want to drill in a little because what I'm not saying is I don't vote, or I don't have my conscience around that, or I don't do things in the political sphere at all. What I am saying is, what would love do here? And if I'm against something, it creates more of that, right? And like you said, we're in a time. It is interesting to me too, because I heard a Gen Z once say, our generation has been through the most difficult time on the planet. And I'm like, oh, it's just not true. My grandmother went through World War One, the Depression, and World War Two.
That's
I mean,
right. That's
all of
right.
that, right? And that's
That's
pretty
right.
close together. So I have so much compassion for that. The difference today is what you're speaking to. The difference today is the devices in our hand, and it is the divisivenesses in our hand. The
Hmm.
divisive devices. I like
Yeah.
that. Let's coin that because we don't actually live in a polarized world in the way that we've been conditioned to hear it. We actually have been conditioned at polarized thinking.
Yeah.
And the polarized thinking creates that. And you're speaking to something that I talk about a lot, which is love is what's happening on the earth. Yes, there are things that are difficult and painful, and there is divisiveness, but it's a very small percentage. But the news flips that.
Hmm. Constantly. Absolutely. You are so right. And back when your grandmother and your great grandmother and grandfather were going through all that, they didn't have something that told them about it was going on all the time, constantly, all the time, constantly, all the time. And it's just you really dig deeper, and that's, I think, the encouragement is that it's like the children today, they're not as affected in many ways as we are. That's projecting, because we're projecting onto them. How do you handle all this?
Right.
Well, their wiring is entirely different. You ask the brain specialists, you ask the people that specialize with the neurons in the child's brain, they aren't having the same kind of response we do. They're using different muscles than we do, right?
That is so
And so
true.
I'm with you. I don't have, I'm not in la la land. Um, I do and will continue to be upset when life is taken
Yeah.
for no reason, when animals are killed and not eaten, when violence occurs that's unnecessary. Yeah, as long as I have a pulse, I will find myself upset about that. But all I can do in the journey of that is speak from love. And I think that the word love itself can be confusing.
Yes.
And I think you highlighted it a while ago. Love doesn't mean you're a doormat. Sometimes love means being stern. It means asking people to apply some discipline. It means if you want to be heard, be angry, but be an enlightened rebel. Be loving and still have an impact, but without the energy that got people there in the first place,
Well, and that's it, Temple. You're speaking to
right?
the root of it because
Hmm.
I think sometimes my mind, I'm going to put it in the I used to believe that if I wasn't outraged, I wasn't doing anything.
Right.
And then I realized that actually the outrage was doing something. It was creating more outrage. It's so profoundly simple. So I
Hmm.
understood that in consciousness, my role is to be love. Now, you said it so eloquently. And love, most of us have been conditioned to believe that love is conditional. I have conditional love. I'll love you if
Hmm.
you do this. I love you because you do that. Therefore, what's the opposite, right? I can't
Right.
possibly love you if you do that. We're so conditioned to have this sort of like conditional love. It's a double condition there. But
Hmm.
to be the frequency of love is to actually facilitate greater change. And that's the piece that took me a long time to not only entertain as an intellectual concept, but to really feel in my body, to understand that it's actually love that creates change. Maybe the protesting, maybe the being against, maybe all that has a role. And at some point, it's really love that creates the connection and creates the change. In other words, if I'm for something rather than against something, it's profoundly
Hmm.
more effective.
And that's been evident, in these last few months are the protests they're magical. They're they are with intention and they are on purpose and they are standing for something. And I'll always love the statement with Mother Teresa, and I'm paraphrasing, no, I won't go marching against or for war or against something, but I will stand for peace.
That's right.
I will stand. Excuse me. That must have been a point because I cleared something there. I will stand for love. I will stand for peace. I will focus on what I'm for. And at the end of the day, there's just certain laws, spiritual laws, that they are immutable. And, one is to be what you want to see. And that's not frou frou or, make believe or, being out of touch. It's like if I sit around, think about, oh, the world's just in terrible shape and I don't know and what's going to happen to us and what are we going to do, and fear kicks in and what are we going to do and then what's going to happen, and then I start projecting and so and so, and I get on Facebook and look at them and they're angry and other, where's it going? Where is the vibration going? We've been teaching all of our adult lives to follow the intuitive path, to follow the guidance. And so it behooves us to let people do that in the way that they interpret it. May not be their way, may not be our way, but ultimately there needs to be respect towards that, don't you think?
Yeah, and I was thinking about Martin Luther King Jr.'s quote too. Hate does not drown out darkness. Only love can
Mm-mm,
do that, or only
mm-mm.
light can do that. And that doesn't mean, because he's a perfect example of someone who stood for a lot and stood
Yeah.
in the midst of a lot of conflict in the world and was saying no, because the sacred no is powerful. Truly, though, he was saying yes. He was not being against something. And so that is a demonstration, and all of us can do that. There are plenty of way showers throughout history who have shown us the power of standing in peace, standing in
Hmm.
love in the midst of what's happening. And what we know, I mean, I think about the bully on the playground, right? If you really, in its simplest form, if you ignore the bully on the playground, that bully loses all its power,
Yeah.
his her or their power. And that's what we're talking about here. And I'm not labeling someone as a bully, but there are people, who are very vocal and
Oh,
very
there's
outspoken
definitely bullies. I
against.
mean,
Yes.
I mean, there's some facts that are facts, and there are bullies. And we hear about it in school systems.
Yeah.
We hear about it in government systems. Definitely, there's bullies. And yet, if you understand the consciousness, if you have, as a shaman, visited your own bully and your own desire to be a bully, then it doesn't mean you excuse the behavior or you're not saying it's okay. It's that you don't need to give power to it because you recognize it comes from an immense insecurity. And if that's what people in this current time are more comfortable with, being around insecure people, and that's their comfort level, then that's where they are on that learning curve,
Yeah.
right?
So I want to read a comment because we have one, and I love that
Oh, I love, oh,
from
somebody's
Kim.
listening.
Yes, Kim.
OMG.
She says, as a recovery coach, professional, and a trainer, it's so important to manage our own stuff. We have to ask ourselves, can I support this person despite my having my own biases? It's not the coach or therapist that has biases. Wait, it's not the coach or therapist that has biases that is the problem. It's the one that thinks they don't have any. Okay, I know what you're saying. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this, TJ. It's a great teaching and a reminder. Thank you, Kim. Absolutely. And I know, Kim, I know you and I know you embody that. So I think what you're saying is so important because to say like, well, I don't have biases. I think that's the
Oh,
issue, right?
please.
To
I don't hang
recognize,
out with anybody like that. I'll tell you that. And the other thing is, here's the thing I want to say to what she said, Kim, and thank you. And we really appreciate the comments. That said, when you are going to a therapist, it can't be one-sided.
hmm,
You're not there so they can interview and probe you. No, no, no. You're there so you can interview and probe them as well. And that's a must. If you are seeing any kind of professional person, you want to ask them, let me ask you some questions. I want to talk to a therapist about having my soulmate. Have you ever had one? Have you had one? Do you still have one? How did that happen? Whatever you are a part of, it's a both and. There's an exchange that happens with two people like you and I. When we decided we wanted to do this, it wasn't, oh, so we could all always say, oh, yeah, I agree with everything you say, TJ, and I agree with everything you say, Temple. No, no, no. It's because we know that we're willing to live out loud, we're willing to take risks, and we know that in some ways people are not going to agree with us, but that means we're doing something.
that's right. I
Means
mean,
we're doing something. But if anybody has ever been in my life and they say, I don't have anything to work on, I got it, God thinks I'm the greatest thing on the planet. That was an experience I had. I would immediately ask myself, now, why did I draw that in? More than likely to remind me I don't want to be that. But no, that is not a space on the planet that I'm in harmony with. That's for sure.
that's
Yeah.
right. No finish
Mhm.
line to any of this for any of us. Deborah also
Mm-mm.
says, I'm listening, Temple. She's responding too. You're saying grateful that people are listening. People often watch in the replay, which we love too. So
Yeah.
always drop questions, comments in the chat, even if it's not live, and we'll come
I
back
love
to them.
our friends, and being in public life, um, it's fascinating in public life. And my tool is to see 80% of it that it has been absolutely amazing. And there's 20% as an introverted person playing an extroverted role that I don't really enjoy. And that is people make up stories about you. I forgive
Mhm.
you. People that said I did things that I didn't do, I forgive you. But I've had many episodes in my life where people would leave a community and, they made up stuff or whatever. And years later, they would call me because of something or reach out. It's like the slate is clean. It's like at that time, I needed your upset, obviously, and you needed my discord, obviously. But now here we are. Look at us. And we talked about this last time on our call about how when you really know you've let something go is when you have a clean slate.
Mhm.
There's no story, there's no good energy, there's no bad energy. It's kind of like you're meeting a stranger within your own consciousness as to who you are today. And if you are a person and you're working with a therapist that never lets their heart be seen, and you are doing it to have a bigger heart, you might want to look at that.
Amazing. And if you're a person who's a coach, counselor, therapist, we get to continuously, I mean, it is true, Temple, like you're saying, signing up for a public life comes with all kinds of projection. And when you were
Uh-huh.
saying people accuse me of things I didn't do, I'm like, oh, they've even accused me of things I have done. And then I'm like, oh, you're right about that.
Mhm.
But then sometimes
Mhm.
it's just completely made up. I mean, I had someone send me a very long anonymous email about a colleague of mine and just all this projection that I know isn't true about him. And
Mhm.
I just read it and thought there's something there for them that is feeling unhealed. And I know for myself, I've projected onto people, and I know that that comes with the territory. And I think also what Kim is saying is as a coach, as a therapist, as a counselor, I get to look at my biases and I get to really honor them because I thought it was
Mhm.
about being rid of them. But to work with them in the room is something really different. And then if I notice that I have some kind of response or reaction, and it could be a projection, I get to become
Mhm.
aware of that. And then I ask myself, what am I making this mean? And what's really true here? So,
Yeah.
yeah, always layers.
Always layers, always learning, always growing. It's amazing. I mean, I see uh, through a shaman's heart, and I'm not a born shaman, but a learned one through courses of 10 years. And, when COVID happened and fear deepened across the world, um, it's safe to say that a lot of energy has not totally recovered from that.
That is so true, Temple. I mean,
Unresolved energy and feelings. And I think it serves everyone to visit that again within your meditation, within your prayer work. What did that actually do to me? How did time stand still? How hard was it? And I think that that is where we got some of this division going on because, I'm in my 60s. I know you're surprised by that, but I am. So here I am in my 60s, and people were saying, "You're not getting the shot. You're not doing it. Why could you not do that? I mean, are you crazy? I mean, aren't you listening to what they're saying? Aren't you doing anything? Aren't you doing that?" And it's like, you know what? I have been holding myself accountable for my own mind for since I've been sober anyway. Like my mother said, Temple, you always listen to spirit. And I go, you are way overrated, lady. No, I haven't always, but since sobriety, I have been doing the best I can with what I know to listen. And I wasn't guided. And we had so much division. We'd be riding down the road in the car with somebody, and they go, "Well, how many shots have you had?" And we went, "Well, we didn't have any." I thought they'd want to jump out of the car. I'm not making them wrong. I'm just doing my best to tell a story. And I think that we upgraded our judgment, our our lack of believing in each other, that I'm not going to give you something, you know. Um, do you understand where I'm going?
yeah,
I feel we became so vulnerable collectively and frightened that we kind of let go of some things of connection to the earth, of knowing what we know, of of like a precaution. Can I count on you? Are you my brother? Are you my sister? Will you stand by me? Or is it because of your lack of choice that it's going to hurt me somehow?
Yeah, I
Right?
agree. And I think when there is a collective traumatic experience that is shared in the way it was shared, that created division, and I think there was a sense that I have is that people were so ready to move on that we didn't want to necessarily all of us get the lesson from that. And I don't mean the
Yeah.
lesson like the universe is conspiring to teach me something.
No, no,
But
of
there
course
is an
not.
opportunity to look at how the activation of the fear created the polarization and created the othering. And that
Yeah.
just it's all throughout history. You can't not look at that. You have
Yeah.
to look at every single major conflict in the world and realize that at the core of it, fear activated this sense of othering. And in the activation of that othering, people lost sight of what's true. And what's truer than our seeming differences, whether that be our different choices, our different, honoring our own medical path. There was so much
Hmm.
going on there. And there was so much happening with if you don't agree with everything I do, you might lose your tribe. And I know some people don't like that term, but that is really a sense that we have these we talk a lot about wanting to find a group of like-minded people. I actually am not interested in finding a group of like-minded people. I'm interested in finding a group of people, and I have and will continue to, who are dedicated to this greater reality. And that greater reality is profoundly simple, Temple. Ooh, I like that. It's profoundly simple, Temple. Love is greater than all of this. And when I
Hmm.
understand that about myself, I can have compassion for someone else. And then I can be in compassionate curiosity.
Yes.
And it was interesting just to watch, like, a news story would come out and then it would get interpreted, and the language around things changed. That's
Yeah.
not like people were saying things that weren't even being said. And we now have decided what happened, and it didn't really happen that way, at least not in my experience. So
Right.
there is a great opportunity for healing, and it's never too late. We can look back at how did I respond and react in the midst of that? What did it create? And is there some healing for me to do now to truly move beyond that so we don't repeat that?
I think it's important. I think it's important to visit some of the feelings, and especially if there was any anger about, especially people that like control and, the energy of being in control, and, that level that brings up that red energy that sits there that feels violated. And then we have the other level of social media, like just saying things, and you don't even know the people, let alone the information or the education of that. And yeah, we're using muscles we haven't used before.
That's right. And one thing I know about that is, and I
Let
will
me
speak
say,
for
oh,
myself, I
yeah.
haven't been to the gym. I've been traveling a lot. And like when I go back the first time, which I do, I will on Friday, I it's a little more difficult the first time back after a while. But once
Hmm.
I'm doing it, it becomes not only easier, but actually fun. I
Yeah.
enjoy working out. So that's the metaphor for let me use this new muscle. And we could talk about what these muscles are. For me, it's like realizing that consciousness creates reality, asking myself the questions that will help me shift my consciousness, asking myself, what would love do here? Asking myself, what am I making this mean? Asking myself, is this thought creating connection or discord? And not being in the rightness or wrongness of that, but asking myself, what do I
Hmm.
want? If I want more love in my life, I get to be love.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and it's okay that we still believe in magic. Like I'll see on occasion, on social media, well, what good's prayer going to do, or prayer's not enough? Well, have you ever seen somebody that, had stage 4 cancer, and they went to a retreat over the weekend, and they were immersed in a tribe of prayer, and then they went and got tested and they didn't have it anymore? those stories are very much alive. They don't necessarily sell commercials because who's going to get credit for being the prayer person? But they are very much alive. And I don't want to see us lose. We aren't going to lose as people like us are alive. The magic of life. Miracles happen every day, all the time, and find them. Find them on your own. I started something with a friend of mine this week of just, we live across the country from each other, but it's like just an email that says, here's my big celebration. I mean, this is true. I really did this. Here's my celebration. I went to the eye doctor. I haven't had my eyes checked in 20 years, and I'm still wearing the same contacts, not the same contacts. Wait a minute. I'm still using the same prescription. Do it, for 20 years. And my good news is don't need to change after 20 years. Woohoo! That's a big deal. To me, it was. That was the magic of that moment. What is yours? And we want to get into that balance of tools that we are balanced. So, yeah, if you really believe that you need to get all revved up about something and get all fired up, okay, but balance it. Make sure you're grounded. Make sure you're prayed up. Stand for what you believe in. Good for you. Because if you just are reactive, nobody really is paying you any attention. It's called hide, it's called delete, it's called go, because we're getting enough of that from every other circle in life.
Well,
So,
Temple, I would give you a standing ovation, but my camera would get confused. So I love that and I thank you.
oh, I don't know what I said. It just kind of came out, it just kind of, that's how we are. It just kind of flows. But I just, I still just believe in magic and miracles. And I believe that the earth can be moved through consciousness. And I believe that out of the dark comes more light, not less. And with that being the case, we have a lot to look forward to,
We sure do. And
you
to
know?
remind myself how much life is a miracle, to look at what we have just decided is everyday life and what a miracle it is. Our bodies, our
Mhm.
minds, the ocean, the sun. I mean, there's so much. And as cliche as it sounds, when I shift my awareness to looking for the miracles, it everything takes its right place. It doesn't mean the problems or the issue goes away.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't mean I pretend like they're not there, but I realize that it's a very small percentage of what's happening. And when I even just to even understand that starts to change the energy. And life is energy, as we know.
Well, in that consciousness, in that energy, you start downloading solutions
Yeah.
through your heart rather than obstacles. So you're aware of it, you see it, but it's like, we used to teach in class, right? It's like that karate chop coming to you. You can do that, it can knock you down. It could put you down if your opponent happens to be very, very skilled, or you just move with it and you move it out of the way from the force of fire, and you just are aligned and grounded in it. And so, more than ever before, we owe it to ourselves because, on some level, and I know I'm not the only person that said this, I don't know who started it, but it gets passed around. We, on some level, chose this time to be here. And this is not a time for us to play another character other than the one we are. It's our time to really be true, stand boldly, share in whatever ways we feel guided to, and make a mighty noise as a difference maker.
I love it. And everyone, we also would love for you to put in the comments. Temple and I are dedicated to doing this once a month. So we
Mhm.
have been doing this once a month now for maybe 4, 5, or 6 months, and we're going to continue doing it. So if there's a topic you want us to explore, please drop that in the comments on this, whether you're watching live or watching in the replay. And it's truly our honor. And Temple, it's always my honor to be with you. So
It's always my honor to be with you, and you're my brother, and I love you, and I cheer for you all the time. I believe in you. You're in my prayers, and we just keep on going and going and going and going. And you are part of my tribe. And I'm sorry somebody doesn't like that word. That's just too bad. It is a tribe. I mean, what are you going to say?
well,
There's just
thank
some
you, Temple.
things it's like, it is what it is. Where two or more are gathered, baby, we got a tribe going on.
Well, thank you, Temple. And I feel the same about you. I love who you are in the world, and I'm so grateful for our connection. So, peace and blessings, everyone. Thank you.
Peace,
Until next month, if not sooner.
if not sinner.